Hello students, let's start part number 5 of this chapter, Town Traders and Craftspersons. In this video we'll discuss about fishing in troubled waters, especially Masulipatam. In the previous videos we discussed about Surat and Hampi. So let's start this video. Masulipatam. You can see in the map of India, the town of Masulipatam, also known as Machlipatam, literally fish port town, lay on the delta of Krishna river in the location. In the 17th century it was a center of intense activity. It means a lot of trading activities used to be happened there in Masulipatam. So both the Dutch and English East India companies attempted to control Masulipatam as it became the most important port on the Andhra coast. The port at Masulipatam was built by the Dutch. You have to remember, dear students, who built the port Masulipatam? Dutch people, means from the people, the traders from Holland, or also known as Netherlands now these days. So Masulipatam was very important center of trade and other economic activities at that time, and English East India Company and Dutch company wanted to control over this important port. A poor fisher town. This is a description of Masulipatam by William Mathwold. William Mathwold was a factor. Factor means the official in charge of factories, and factory means factory doesn't mean today's industries. Like today's industries, factories were the trading centers of Europeans, right? So factor was official in charge of factories, and he was a factor of English East India Company. In 1620 he described about this port. This is the chief port of Golconda, where the Right Worshipful East India Company have their agent. It is a small town but populous, unwalled, ill-built, and worse situated. Within all the springs are brackish. It was first a poor fisher town, afterwards the convenience of road, a place where ships can anchor, made it a residence for merchants, and so continued since our and the Dutch nation frequented this coast. It means in this description we can understand that he explained that in the beginning it was just a poor port, and just some of the fishermen used to live there, but later it became very important center, and merchants also started to live there. Let's study the Qutub Shahi rulers of Golconda. This ruler imposed royal monopolies on the sale of textiles, spices, and other items to prevent the trade passing completely into the hands of the various East India companies. It means he declared the monopolies, means single rights. Only this ruler declared the single rights for the sale of textiles, spices, and other items to prevent the East India Company and other companies from Europe have the trade on these kinds of things. But there was hard competition among various trading groups like Golconda nobles, means the kings and royal people of Golconda, merchants also, Persian merchants, Telugu, Komati, Chettis, and European traders like Dutch, English, etc. made the city populous and prosperous. In this way the big traders used to live there, so it became very prosperous city, and various kinds of traders and other people, craftspeople and suppliers lived there, so it became very populous. As the Mughal began to extend their power to Golconda, their representative, the governor Mir Jumla, was the representative of Mughals, who was also a merchant, began to play off the Dutch and English against each other. In 1686 and 87, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb annexed Golconda. It means he controlled over Golconda in 1686 and 87. So what was the impact of this thing? That European companies to look for alternatives, because now Aurangzeb prevented them to have the trade. It was a part of new policy of the English East India Company that it was not enough if a port had connections with the production of centers of the hinterland. Hinterland means the land far from the port areas or from the coastal areas, that is known as hinterland. The new company trade centers, it was felt, should combine political, administrative and commercial roles. As the company traders moved to Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, Machilipatnam lost both its merchants and prosperity and declined in the course of the 18th century, being today nothing more than a dilapidated little town. So, dear students, you have to understand that after the declination of Machilipatnam and Surat and Hooghly also, these became very important centers like Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. Today it is known as Kolkata. Madras, it is known as Chennai. So after the emergence of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, the important ports like Surat, Machilipatnam, and Hooghly lost their value and importance. New towns and traders. In the 16th and 17th centuries, European countries were searching for spices and textiles, which had become popular both in Europe and West Asia. So these things were available in plenty of amount in India and subcontinent countries. The English, Dutch, French formed East India companies in order to expand their commercial activities in the East, because these companies wanted to expand their trade regarding these things, spices and textiles. Initially, great Indian traders like Mullah Abdul Ghaffur and Virji Vora, who owned a large number of ships, competed with them. However, the European companies used their naval power to gain control of the sea trade and forced Indian traders to work as their agents. It means now, due to the expansion of trade by the European companies, Indian traders, even big Indian traders, became just only the agents of European companies. So after that, European companies controlled, especially the English, emerged as the most successful commercial and political power in the subcontinent, and ultimately the European companies got the trade rights, and they controlled over the trade in the subcontinent like India, Sri Lanka, and now the present parts of Pakistan and Bangladesh, Afghanistan also. The spurt in demand for goods like textiles led to a great expansion of the crafts of spinning, weaving, bleaching, dyeing. It means these kinds of employment emerged and increased due to the increasing in the demands of textiles in the European market. But one negative impact was there, that this time also saw the decline of the independence of craftspersons. Why? Because English traders used to give the advance to the weavers and craftspeople for supplying the products, and also provided them loan. So after trapping in advances and loan system, the Indian suppliers and Indian craftspeople were bounded completely. They were bounded to give the particular things to supply only to the European companies, due to which they could not bargain, and just the prices were fixed by the European companies. So in this way, weavers faced a lot of problems. Clear? So they no longer had the liberty of selling their own cloth or weaving their own patterns. So they had to reproduce the designs supplied to them by the company agents. The 18th century saw the rise of Bombay. As I told you that Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, these new ports, new trading centers emerged, and Machilipatnam and Hooghly and Surat declined due to the control increased over these kinds of centers by the European companies or English companies. So the people who were weavers and Indian suppliers and craftspeople, they lived in the towns were known as black towns. Clear? These were established by European companies within these new cities, and blacks or native traders, craftspeople used to live there. And for the white people, especially for Dutch, English and French also, these towns were known as white towns. And for example, Fort St. George in Madras, you have to remember, and Fort St. William in Calcutta. So the story of crafts and commerce in the 18th century will be taken up next year. So this is the picture, Bombay Street, early 19th century, around 1810, 1820. Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus. Just you have to remember, dear students, Vasco da Gama found the sea route to India, and Christopher Columbus found the sea route to Americas. He was Italian explorer, and Vasco da Gama was the Portuguese explorer or the trader, merchant. Clear? So Vasco da Gama, Portuguese sailor, as we have discussed, sailed down the African coast, went round the Cape of Good like this. This is the southern part of Africa. So Cape of Good Hope, and then he crossed over to the Indian Ocean. Here the Indian Ocean. His first journey took more a year, and he reached Calicut in 1498. So Vasco da Gama discovered the route to India in 1498, and after that he returned to Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. He lost 2 of his 4 ships. Total he had 4 ships, but 2 were lost, and total 170 men were there with him, but only 54 survived. In spite of the obvious hazards, the routes that were opened up proved to be extremely profitable, and he was followed by English, Dutch and French sailors after that. In the same way, Christopher Columbus, an Italian, he decided to sail westwards across the Atlantic Ocean to find a route to India. He landed in the West Indies, got their name because of this confusion, that in 1492. Clear? So in 1492 he discovered the sea route to Americas, and conquerors from Spain and Portugal, who occupied large parts of Central and South America, often destroying earlier settlements in the area. Native settlements were destroyed by these new European people. So dear students, in this way we have discussed about the topics given in this chapter. We can see. So revise this chapter by watching this video again, and read it from the PDF. Thank you. Have a nice day.